Every March for the last 9 years, more than 7,000 Australians gather for the annual Melanoma March, raising some $1 million for melanoma research. As one of the most common cancers in the country, taking the life of one Australian every 5 hours, the march is a vital lifeline for sufferers and their families. But because of the escalating COVID-19 threat, like so many community events, this year's fundraiser has been cancelled. Not to be deterred, the Melanoma March virtual will go ahead tomorrow morning as scheduled. We're joined now via Skype by CEO of Melanoma Institute Australia, Matthew Browne, and melanoma survivor Jen Benfield. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
Hi.
Matthew, if I can start with you, how important is the Melanoma March from a fundraising perspective? As we say, it's gone on for several years now. What does it mean to the Melanoma Institute?
Yes, it's raised over many millions of dollars over the 8 years that it's been in existence. And for this year, for example, we were looking to raise about $1 million. All that money goes to research, vital research, particularly in trying to find new treatments for melanoma. It's a very serious disease, as we know. And yes, the fundraising dollars that Melanoma March, that we receive for Melanoma March each year is very important for the research.
And Jen, it's much more than a fundraising event, isn't it? Why is it so important to you and other melanoma survivors that this march goes ahead in some form?
Jacinta, it means everything to me and my family because it's something that we can all do and get behind and do something positive out there in the community and get together and raise awareness about how important it is to prevent melanoma, because really that's something that we all need to consider when we're talking about such a deadly disease, is that it is preventable. And when we go out there and march on these wonderful Melanoma March events, we're really getting out there into the community and saying, come on everyone, we really need to put on a hat, put on some sunscreen and get serious about the fact that melanoma can kill. And I'm certainly one of those people who has benefited from the Melanoma Institute and the research funding that has come from events like this.
Yes, for Jen, for you it is personal. You were diagnosed with melanoma in 2013. You had two beautiful young children at the time. We've been looking at photos of them on the screen of your beautiful family. It must have turned your world upside down.
Oh, it did. It did. I was diagnosed with an aggressive melanoma on my back, and 4 years later, it had spread into my lung and into my kidney, and I became stage 4. Very quickly. And for anyone who understands anything about cancer, there is no stage 5. So I was on the edge of a cliff and looking at my fate. And the Melanoma Institute, and particularly Professor Georgina Long, who you're seeing right there on the screen right now, is at the forefront of research, not only here in Australia, but in the world. Globally, she is seen as a authority on oncology, melanoma oncology, and she certainly saved my life through drug treatment and also through surgeries.
Yeah, and you are, as we say, a walking example of how this research and this money can save lives, literally.
I am, and that's why it's really important that this march goes ahead, even given the current climate at the moment with the coronavirus. The virtual event is something that we can all still get behind, and I know that my family and friends will be out there marching 2 metres apart tomorrow and uploading photos to the Melanoma March site.
Yes, I'm just going to ask Matthew a bit more about how that works in a minute. But meanwhile, Matthew, speaking to Jen there, we know melanoma can affect anyone. How common is it in Australia?
Yeah, well, firstly, it's a wonderful story, Jen's, a very inspirational story. And I've heard Jen's story many times, and it's just so inspirational to our team, but also to our community to hear Jen and her speak about her journey with her family. But yes, in terms of how common melanoma is, Australia has the highest rates of melanoma in the world. We have about 15,000 new melanomas a year, which is about one every half an hour in terms of diagnosis. And unfortunately, about 1,500 people will still die each year from melanoma. And in fact, it's a young person's disease. It's one of the most it is the most common disease for the 15 to 39-year-old bracket, even evidenced by Jen's story.
And you found an innovative way for this march to go ahead tomorrow, despite coronavirus. Tell us how it's going to work. And there's no excuse now for not taking part, is there? Everyone can take part.
No, well, a really important element of melanoma marches is the coming together, the physicality of coming together and marching and being supported by those going through the journey. Now, obviously, we can't do that at the moment. So to try and emulate that, we've come up with the virtual melanoma march. So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m, if you log on to melanomamarch.org.au, you'll be able to see a lot of videos from supporters, people that have been very much collaborators of the Melanoma March, because it's a national event, it's a national collaboration. We have wonderful partners. So you'll see videos from them. And then what we ask you to do is do a small thing that you can do in your area. It might be a small walk around the block. It might be just a walk around the yard, or even have a cup of tea. But what we'd like to do is then take a photo of that and post it onto our Melanoma March walls using Facebook and Instagram. And then all of those pictures will be aggregated, and you can go on and see what other people around Australia are doing to help sort of dedicate themselves to Melanoma March, even for a short period tomorrow morning.
If you can't do that, you can donate money and you can help save the life of someone like Jen. And thank you both so much for telling us all about it tonight.
Thank you,
Jacinta. Thanks for having us.